So, I'm going to tell a story about when I was little that had to do with me having to get a needle poked on my foot because of this bump I had. I think this happened when I was like 8 years old or something. So, I was at my dad's house. I I was not wearing any socks because I took them off. Instead, I was walking barefoot, running around into the cold tiles of the kitchen floor. The next thing I know, I hear a crackling noise, like a crunchy noise, like I stepped on something. And I looked down and I saw a dead cricket. And I got grossed out and said, ew. And I stopped running in the kitchen because I had stepped on the already dead cricket. It was already dead in the kitchen. It was just on the floor. I had stepped on it. Since the day has already passed of spending time at my dad's house, it's the weekend and I go back to my home at my mom's apartment. A little bit days passed while I'm over there at my mom's, and I noticed that when I was walking barefoot in my mom's kitchen that had like regular flooring, I noticed that it hurt when I stepped on one of my feet. It hurt so much for me to walk on that one specific foot that I felt like I was practically dragging a freaking chair chained to my foot behind me because I felt a lot of weight as I was trying to walk. I started crying because it hurt for me to walk, and I looked on my foot and I saw a big bump on it. It was on the back of my foot, of course. I told my mom that I didn't know why I had the bump on my foot and I didn't know how I got it. She told me that my foot was like that because it got infected. All of a sudden, I get a flashback thinking in my mind like how I could have gotten that infected bump on my foot, and I thought back to when I was at my dad's house some days ago. I told her that it must have been because I stepped on that dead cricket on his kitchen floor when I was walking barefoot there by myself. I remember I couldn't walk right because of that infected bump on my foot, so I was laying down on my living room couch with a pillow beneath my foot. I don't really remember much about this day, to be honest. I think it was like a school day or something that this happened that I had to stay at home laying on the couch like that with the pillow beneath my foot because I wasn't able to really walk. So I didn't go to school, I guess. And I think I stayed at home that day playing video games in the living room while I was laying down on the couch, just chilling by myself as I was home alone. Since my foot was infected with that bump, my mom told me that she had to get a needle and like poke it. Of course, as a child hearing that from her, I got scared because, it's a needle. Needles are sharp and that's probably going to hurt. She told me to go in the bathroom with her and she told me to sit down on top of the cover of the toilet as she like got her like little kit out that had like some medical stuff and there was like a needle inside there. She also had alcohol and cotton swabs to the side. She told me as she got the needle, she said, I'm sorry, Mija, this is going to hurt. I was really nervous and I was standing still and she really poked the infected bump on the back of my foot, all of a sudden I started crying a lot because it hurt a lot, and she was telling me that she was sorry because she knew that I was in a lot of pain from her getting the needle to poke my infected foot. My brother and sister were also watching that happen of her like poking me with the needle. Did I also mention that the most painful part of it, which was also another reason I was crying a lot, was because when my mom poked me in my infected area with the needle, lots of blood started gushing out of my foot where it was infected. Remember that my blood was like dark red and a lot of it was gushing out, like when someone gets really injured or something, a scary movie, you see like a lot of blood popping out. It was like that, except that it was coming from the back of my foot. Don't you just love when blood starts gushing out of your foot? You start crying. I know I certainly don't. That part was really painful, to be honest. When it was over, my mom, she had disinfected it with like alcohol, like pouring it onto fluffy cotton balls. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think so. And like it stinged because it was, actually disinfecting infected area of my foot where there was blood coming out. I don't really remember what happened days after that happened. Like my foot got back to normal. There's no more infected area on it, and there was no more blood gushing out of it. And I could walk perfectly fine now without feeling that there's a fucking chair dragging my freaking foot through a freaking chain. I also learned to never walk barefoot at my dad's house in the kitchen ever again because of that experience. Because I never ever want to step on a dead bug and get an infected foot and have blood gushing out of it. Because that's not fun. I also had forgotten about this story for years. Like, I only recently remembered it because I was like thinking back when I was little, because like I remember in my high school for senior year that my Spanish teacher said that our exam had to do with injuries. That made me think about if I've ever injured myself as a kid, and I remember this. I thought to myself, well, I've never told anyone about this before. I remember that one time I texted like my best friend about the story, and she was the only friend I told about this. She started freaking out. Like, she said I scared her. She said like, oh, what's wrong with you?